Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning and welcome to worship. We are so glad to be joining with you in person today and joining with those online through our live streaming at home. We ask you to say hello in the chat if you are live streaming with us and let us know you're joining us today. If you are new to the congregation and would like some more information on our church, we invite you to text New Life to 785-268-7150. And then I have a couple calendar reminders for today. We do have our 2nd through 12th graders are meeting this afternoon. They're having chimes and bell rehearsal at 3:30. They're also then having youth groups from 4:30 to 6. Adult bells are meeting at 1. And tonight is our camp and our mission talent show here in the sanctuary at 6 o'clock. So we invite everyone to join us here in person, and then we'll also be live streaming that at home. So join us for our camp and talent mission show tonight. And then a note of thanks from the elders to all of you who attended one of the Let's Gather Together meetings last week. We know that many of you are wanting to connect and get together, and we encourage you to call each other, set up some times to gather with one another, and join us here in worship each week during Lent. And then that leads me to a reminder that this Wednesday, we'll be having our Ash Wednesday services here at 6:30, and those will also be live streamed at home for anyone who's not able to join us in person. And then today, we lift up our prayers for our world and for the situation in Ukraine. It is our special day offering for Week of Compassion begins this Sunday and will also be next Sunday. And this is a wonderful time through Week of Compassion. They go to war-torn areas, they help with refugees, they help when there's a natural disaster around the world. So this is a way that the Christian Church Disciples of Christ can be present and help and feel. So if you're looking for some way to help with the situation in Ukraine and the refugees that are going into other countries, this might be one good way that you can reach out and help. So I think there are offering envelopes that are in the pews. We have them out there. Just write Week of Compassion if you would like to donate to that. And then now I invite you to stand as you're able and join me in our responsive call to worship. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom.
And all of us, with unveiled faces, seeing the glory of the Lord as though reflected in a mirror, are being transformed into the same image from one degree of glory to another. For this comes from the Lord, the Spirit.
Good morning. Would you please join me in singing hymn number 70, verses 1 through 4, God of the Sparrow, God of the Whale. God of the sparrow, God of the whale, God of the swirling stars, how does the creature say, oh? How does the creature say, praise? God of the earth, How does the creature say life?
I invite you to join me in our unison prayer. O God, we are comforted by the knowledge that when you placed a call upon our lives, you had already factored in our foibles and frailties. It is by the power of your Spirit that we are transformed into better beings as we follow in Christ's footsteps, treating all whom we encounter as we ourselves would wish to be treated. Forgive us when we fall short of this goal, and give us yet another chance to do the right things for the right reasons. For this we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Please be seated.
Our next song this morning is called Joy of the Lord. You may be unfamiliar with it. I know I was at first until I looked into it more. But I just really appreciated the message, and I hope that you'll join us in singing, particularly the chorus. The words say, the joy of the Lord is my strength.
Pulling on joy from heaven's reserve. Got stored up enough for every winter I'm served. I'm seeing beyond my circumstance. This joy that I have is my inheritance. Joy, this is the joy of the Lord. The joy of the Lord is my strength. The joy of the Lord is my strength. Oh, God is my hope. The joy of the Lord is my strength. There is a Savior in the valley place. He's walking beside me and he knows my pain. Got the beginning and the end. God right there in the midst of it. Joy. This is the joy of the Lord. Sing that, oh joy. This is the joy of the Lord. The joy of the Lord is my strength. The joy of the Lord is my strength. Oh, God is my hope. The joy of the Lord is my strength.
There's gonna be glory. There's gonna be glory. There will be glory after this. No need to worry. This present suffering. There will be glory after this.
Would you join us? There's gonna be glory. There's gonna be glory. There will be glory after this. No need to worry. This present suffering. There will be glory after this. The joy of the Lord is my strength. is my strength. The joy, the joy, the joy of the Lord is my strength. Oh, you are my hope. Yes, oh, you are my hope. Oh, you are my hope. The joy, the joy, the joy of the Lord is my strength. We seek to emulate God in all that we do, and we find our joy from God. But beyond that, we also look for love, we look for hope, we look for strength. Would you sing our next hymn with us, Breathe on Me, Breath of God, looking to be sanctified, to be more like our Creator and our Savior.
Breathe on me, breath of God. Fill me with life anew, that I may love what thou dost love, and do what thou wouldst do. Breathe on me, breath of God, until my heart is pure, until with thee I will one will to do and do and do. Breathe on me, breath of God, till I am wholly thine, until this earthly part of me glows with thy fire divine.
At this time, I invite our children, 3-year-old to 5th grade, to join us downstairs for children's ministry.
Today's scripture reading is from the book of Luke, chapter 9, verses 28 through 36. Now, about 8 days after these sayings, Jesus took with him Peter and John and James and went up to the mountain to pray. And while he was praying, the appearance of his face changed, and his clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly they saw 2 men, Moses and Elijah, talking to him. They appeared in glory and were speaking of his departure, which he was about to accomplish at Jerusalem. Now Peter and his companions were weighed down with sleep. Since they had stayed awake, they saw his glory and the 2 men who stood with him. Just as they were leaving, Peter said to Jesus, "Master, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 dwellings, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah," not knowing what he had said. While he was saying this, a cloud came and overshadowed them, and they were terrified as they entered the cloud. Then from the cloud came a voice that said, "This is my son, my chosen. Listen to him." When the voice had spoken, Jesus was found alone. And they kept silent, and in those days they told no one any of the things that they had seen. Hear what the Spirit is saying to the church. Thanks be to God.
Good morning. It feels so nice to be talking to people instead of a video camera. If you worshiped with us last Sunday, you may remember that Donna at the beginning said that when she first saw the text for last Sunday, she really wished she had swapped off with me. I had that same feeling when I saw the text for this Sunday. More accurately, I felt like the chameleon that was in the story attributed to Mark Twain. You know about chameleons, right? How they change colors. Twain told the story about a chameleon who got along really well. Crossing the grass, it turned green. Crossing the mud, it turned brown. And then it came to a swatch of Scotch plaid. It had no idea which way to go. That's how I felt when I first saw this text for today. Should I talk about it analytically? This happened, and then that happened, and this other thing happened, as if that's all there really is to the story? Should we try to analyze why Peter made such a bizarre suggestion? Well, we're actually going to get to that. Do we talk about who is really transformed during the Transfiguration? Where do we start? Oddly enough, we're going to start with a fairy tale. I know that sounds strange, but bear with me. Do you remember the tale of the princess and the frog? A beautiful princess encounters this large, ugly frog. It's not a horned frog, just for the record. It's a bullfrog, one day by the pond. And when she starts to turn away from it, it speaks. It says, "Wait, I'm not truly a frog. I am a handsome prince. I've been enchanted by a witch. I must remain as you see me for the rest of my life. Unless I am kissed by a beautiful princess, such as yourself." Well, the princess is skeptical. I mean, really, a talking frog? But she takes him in, and for 3 days they have this running conversation. And finally, in an act of grace, she takes a chance and she kisses the frog, and lo and behold, this ugly frog is transformed into the handsome prince he has always been. There really are two morals in the story. The first is that the princess has the courage and the faith and the insight to see the prince in the frog and to accept him for what he truly is, something that no one else can see. The second is that we are all frogs. I especially like the way that Hans Christian Andersen said it. Everyone's life is a fairy tale written by the fingers of God. Luke's text today is a similar story, not in terms of being a fairy tale, but rather a tale of transformation, of transfiguration, of the disciples finally becoming aware of who Jesus is and who Jesus has always been. This handsome Prince of Peace, who's always been there, yet somehow always hidden from view. For isn't that what the fairy tale was about? Seeing beneath the outward form to what's really beneath? Luke's tale begins, "Now about 8 days after these sayings." Let's not gloss over that phrase as if it's the equivalent of once upon a time, because it's not. These sayings, 8 days earlier, was Jesus' pronouncement that he must undergo great suffering, that he must be rejected by the scribes and the high priest, that he must be killed, and on the third day be raised from the dead. And immediately after that, he says, if any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their own cross and follow me. Certainly, these are not words to be glossed over. Now, 8 days later, he takes Peter, John, and James, and they go up on a mountain together to pray. It's not unusual for Jesus to separate himself for prayer or to take people with him. As is so often the case in the Gospels, however, weariness overcomes the disciples and they fall asleep while they are praying. True confession, been there, done that. More often than I'd like to admit. Don't be distracted by Luke's assertion that though they were weary, they stayed awake. That's not the way Mark tells it. Mark says they fell fast asleep. And when they arose, the three were startled to see Moses and Elijah standing there talking with Jesus. One representing the law, the other representing the prophets, and Jesus representing the fulfillment of both. Think about it. How often in the scriptures do we hear Jesus say, "You have heard that it was said in the law and the prophets, but I say to you." Do you remember how Matthew tells us? When the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together, and one of them, a lawyer, asked Jesus a question in order to test him. "Teacher, which commandment in the law is the greatest?" And he said to them, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the greatest and the first commandment. But there is a second like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang all of the law and the prophets. You have heard that it was said, but I say to you." Can you imagine the conversation that Moses and Elijah and Jesus are having on this mountaintop? Fortunately, we don't have to imagine. Luke tells us they're not talking about the law and the prophets. Luke says they're talking about the coming events in Jerusalem, of Jesus' departure, that they are encouraging Jesus to remain faithful and strong to the seeming end. Peter being Peter, either hears none of this conversation or he chooses to ignore it. Caught up in the glory that is before his sleepy eyes, he wants to capture the sight before them and enshrine it. "Lord," he says, "let us erect 3 tents, 3 dwellings, one for each of you. Let us commemorate this event, this literal mountaintop experience, that we may dwell here in glory." Isn't that how we too feel about mountaintop experiences? We don't want them to end. We want to stay in that moment forever. We never realize in that moment that to make that the focal point of our lives denies us of all of the possibilities of what might follow. So it is that at the moment of Peter's utterance, a cloud envelops them. An act used in the Bible to manifest the presence and conceal the glory of God. And from the cloud comes a voice, God's voice, that even Peter hears this time. This is my Son, my chosen. Listen to him. It's an affirmation of the Psalms and the prophets, an affirmation that Jesus is both the unique Son and the chosen servant of God, in whom God delights and through whom God brings salvation to all of us. This is my Son, my chosen. Listen to him. But it also points the disciples back to the events of 8 days earlier, when Jesus told him he must go to Jerusalem, that he must be rejected and suffer and die, and on the third day be raised. This is what must happen, God says in essence. And then there's that other thing. You know, what Jesus said to them after he foretold the events about to unfold in Jerusalem. If any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves. Take up their cross daily and follow me, for those who want to save their life will lose it. And those who lose their life for my sake will save it. What does it profit them if they gain the whole world but lose or forfeit themselves? Those who are ashamed of me and of my words, of them the Son of Man will be ashamed when he comes in his glory and the glory of the Father and of the holy angels. This is my Son. Listen to him. And then there are those other words, the ones we cited earlier. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. And a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. Look around you. See if the world is heeding these words. See if we are treating one another with love. This is my Son, my chosen. Listen to him. May we be wise enough to do so. Let us pray. O God, our Creator, it's been a troubling week. Rather than a mountaintop experience, your children are fighting once more in the streets of Ukraine, in the halls of Congress and our state houses, at school board meetings, and seemingly everywhere else we look. How long, O Lord? How long will you tolerate such foolishness? How long will we pain your heart by our actions and our inactions? All of our lives we have been urged to be like the disciples, not realizing there are times when we should not imitate them. For Luke tells us that after your voice had spoken and Jesus was found to be alone again, they kept silent and told no one. How often, O Lord, have we kept silent when we should have spoken up? How often have we kept our counsel when we should have sought the Spirit's? How often have we forgotten that to be a disciple of Jesus means learning how to walk in the way of Jesus? Means learning a way of simplicity, humility, inclusivity, forgiveness, non-violence, compassion and commitment to a greater good, the kingdom of God. How often have we sought to capture the mountaintop moments at the expense of what the future holds? Forgive us, O Lord, and help us up as we stumble along the way. Correct our imbalances and strengthen us for the task of living each day. For this we ask in the words that you have taught us to pray, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who sin against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
The Apostle Paul was never one to mince words, especially when it came to collecting an offering. Although the Message puts it a bit gentler than some translations, it's still pretty pointed. Each and every Sunday, each of you make an offering and put it in safekeeping. Be as generous as you can. When I get there, you'll have it ready, so I won't have to make a special appeal. So be generous, be as generous as you can, and I'll keep my special appeals to a minimum. You can give your tithes and offerings by visiting our website, fcctopeka.org, and select Give from the drop-down menu, or you can use text to give and send an offering amount to our secure server at 844-277-0693. Now, let us dedicate our offerings to God. We are most grateful, O God, for the generosity of these, your followers. May our offerings be multiplied in their use and used for your glory. Amen.
And sing verses 1 and 2 of hymn number 182, Transform Us. Transform us as you transfigured, stood upon on tables height. Lead us up our sacred mountains, search us with revealing light. Lift us from where we have fallen, full of questions filled with fright. Transform us as you transfigured, once spoke with those holy ones. We surrounded by the witness of those saints whose work is done. Live in this world as your body, chosen to
It's the week of compassion. That compassion seems to be in short supply in our world. As our brothers and sisters in Ukraine fight for their freedom and their lives, as the homeless struggle in the streets in the cold, some of us struggle in our private lives, we find comfort in knowing that we are not alone. We're reminded at this table that we are never alone. For Jesus is here with us, reminding us that God is love, and we are to love God and one another, just as he loved his disciples and loves us still. Let us gather here and prepare to receive his gift of bread and cup.
Transforming God, you have given us a vision of your glory in the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Hear us as we bring to you our lives to be transformed by you through your redeeming presence in our community and our world. May these gifts of bread and wine strengthen us to answer your call. May we receive them as the very being of Christ in us, body and blood, transfiguring us for new life and service. Amen.
We remember at this table how Jesus took the bread, gave thanks and broke it, saying, "This is my body which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me." And likewise, after supper, he took the cup, saying, "This is the new covenant in my blood. Do this as often as you drink it in remembrance of me." Let us partake together of the bread and the cup.
Would you please stand and join us for the final verse of Transform Us? Transform us as you transfigured, would not stay within a shrine. Keep us from our great temptation, time and truth we quickly bind. Lead us down those daily pathways, where our love is not confined.
As we go out into the world to live our lives, let us declare the good news that we carry to all those we encounter. Because God first loved us, First Christian Church invites our neighbors to experience God's radical love. Now go with the love and blessing of God. Live your lives faithfully. Amen.